Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the
and WDGL. Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. Just about half your work week in the rear view mirror. Working towards that weekend. Busy 2 hours upcoming. In 15 minutes, I will give you the answer to the question I teased yesterday on the show, as well as in the promos entering to this show. Aaron Nola or Paul Skeens? If you had one game to win, who would you give the baseball to? I've gone back and poured over the stats. I've got a lot of nuggets to deliver. I watched just about every pitch these two guys have thrown in their LSU careers, so excited to get to that. It's actually our Citizens Bank and Trust poll question of the day, and it's still active over there on ESPN, at 1045 ESPN on Twitter. So I'll give you my answer to Paul Skeens versus Aaron Nola in 15 minutes from right now. It's a What If Wednesday. We'll get some what ifs that have been pouring in on Twitter at 1:30. LSU basketball's got a commitment. We've got new projections for the NCAA tournament in baseball that we'll get to in hour number 2. Foster Morrow is headed home, play for the New Orleans Saints. We'll get to that in hour 2, and we always chat with our guy Chris Demouy from the 60 Feet 6 Inches LSU Baseball podcast at 2:30 on Wednesdays, so we will certainly get to that. But we start with LSU and Northwestern State last night in the box. Tigers run rule the Demons in a game they took control of early, scored 10 runs between the second and third innings, and dominated an outmanned Northwestern team last night. I thought the biggest takeaway for me was that Tommy White continues to stay absolutely smoking hot. He is 9 for his last 13 with a homer and 4 doubles, so more than half of those 9 hits have been for extra bases. And one thing that stood out to me that I talked about on Monday about the weekend is we know how well Tommy White hits the ball with authority the other way. He only had 2 home runs to the pull side as of this past weekend. And now we're seeing him really pull the ball with authority. He did so against Auburn, and he did it again last night at a towering home run to left field, pulled a couple of doubles into left field with authority. And that just, to me, makes it even more difficult to pitch to Tommy White, because you know you can't just pitch him away and hope he rolls over it. He's going to drive it out of the ballpark the other way. So you feel like you can maybe cheat and get him in with the fastball, and now that's not the case either. He's driving that thing through the left side and into the seats in left field for home runs. So Tommy White, 9 for his last 13. He was fantastic last night. He was 3 for 4, 3 runs scored, drove in 4 more. So a big night for Tommy White. Thatcher Hurd garnered a lot of the other discussion. I'll be very honest. At times in my home, I lose a little bit track of time because we're chasing the Myers man, who all he wants to do is walk around and throw balls everywhere. And that's what he does. And sometimes I look up and he's chucking balls everywhere. And I realized that the game started 3 minutes ago. So I went and grabbed and turned it on and still trying to follow him around. And I look up and I hadn't even looked at the lineup. So I did not know who was starting. And I look up and I see that there's 2 on and nobody out. And I'm going, please don't be Hurd. And then the camera angle changes and boom, there's Hurd. And I went, oh no, he's pitching good. He's been throwing it great. This is not a good start. And I went back and checked the highlights, and you see that he gives off a leadoff single on a changeup that he left up in the zone, and then he issues a 5-pitch walk, and you're going, oh, God. And then he throws a wild pitch that probably should have been caught by Travinski. And then he issues another 4-pitch walk, and that's the second walk. And I'm going to pull my hair out because this is a guy that we think's turned a corner, and it doesn't look very good. And from that point, he did a really nice job. He struck out 5, and how many innings did he throw here? 2 1/3 with 5 strikeouts. Had just those 2 walks, and that was all that reached base against him. They stretched him out to 35 pitches, and I thought the outing was positive. It was a really bad start. 3 of the first 4 reached. You had the 2 walks. You had the wild pitch. It didn't look very good, but he dialed it in. Got a little bit of a break on the high fastball that the kid swung through, but he did throw a couple of really nice breaking balls for strike 3 that I liked. So I thought overall a pretty positive outing for Thatcher Hurd. And for him to go 35 pitches, I thought that was very good. I think they could work him up to 60, 70 pitches if it had to be. And I don't know that it has to be. His role, I don't think is defined. And Jay Johnson and Wes Johnson are no doubt talking about that daily, about the way they want to deploy him. Do you still feel like Griffin Herring is your guy after Skeens if you've got a 3 or 4 run lead? Do you think Hurd is maybe that guy that can take over in the 7th and get you home? If Skeens dominates and you get a nice lead and maybe you win sizably in the first 2 games of a weekend, do you hand the ball to Thatcher Hurd to start game 3 and say, hey, 50 pitches? I don't know. That's not something I feel like has to be set in stone right now. Maybe just depending on the matchup, the situation on the weekend, and what you have, behind him. I think right now the most important thing is that he is pitching well. And I thought he did pitch pretty well last night. The defense in the 6th inning bummed me out a little bit. JT short hops one over to first base, which I didn't love. Ethan Fry is out there in right field, and he just clean overruns a fly ball that lands 4 feet to his left. For Ethan Fry, he's having to adapt to a different position, and I don't think he's going to be in a major spot for this team moving forward. But he entered the program at the same time as Brady Neal and Jared Jones, who are catchers. So I don't know that he's going to catch. And Jones is playing first, so that spot's not available either. So if he wants to play defense, he's probably going to have to play a corner outfield spot, and that didn't look all that great. He's got time to work on it. He's probably never done it in his life, so he's got time to do that. But it's a little bit of a concern, I would say, because he's got to find a spot to play. And that kind of goes back to the Palmineri recruiting philosophy, where he didn't want to recruit a bunch of big-bodied hitters. Because, 1, you got to play defense, everybody but one guy. And 2, if the bat doesn't absolutely play, there's nothing you can help with. At least if you're not swinging the bat great and you're a great defender, a great runner, you can help. So, not a big deal for this team, but something I got from this midweek game was that it looked a little sloppy on defense there. Then the back-to-back homers were cool. That's a cool thing to see White go deep, and then Beloso goes deep, and then Travinski goes deep. And Hayden Travinski was 3 for 3 in the game last night, and I think has warranted a lot of playing time. His defense is not as good as Milazzo's. As I mentioned, I thought he should have caught the fastball that Thatcher Hurd threw in the first inning. But he has thrown some guys out this year, and I don't think he's been awful defensively. And I think if Brady Neal's not going to play, and even if Brady Neal does come back, but I doubt he's going to be able to catch every game of the weekend, Travinski's warranted some playing time. This is an LSU baseball team that's going to probably have to outscore people. Can we agree on that? Can we agree that LSU's most plausible path to victory on weekends is scoring 7, 8, 9, 10 runs in games? And Travinski helps you do that. If it gets to the point where he proves he can't do it, or if you get a lead and want to then go to Milazzo, I understand. But I think game in, game out, Hayden Travinski has warranted plenty of at-bats. And I know that there's a little bit of concern from some about the past 4 games from Dylan Cruz. 2 for 12 over the weekend. Then he shows up last night and goes 0 for 2, struck out once. You're going, okay, here's a slump. And I still would suggest going back to the Bama weekend, which as we sit here on Wednesday is only 10 days prior to today, that Bama weekend, he got on base 10 times. He got 2 hits in every game. So, yeah, the last 5 games haven't been as good as he's been, but it's not like he can't make contact or he's not getting on base. He did walk again last night, and he got hit by a pitch last night, and not that that's some elite skill. There's a little bit of luck involved in that, but I couldn't be less concerned about Dylan Cruz. And guess what? If you want to be super aggressive with Dylan Cruz, he's probably going to make you pay. And if you don't, because you're still a little bit scared, Tommy White, as I mentioned, is 9 for his last 13. So it's not been a huge issue for LSU, and I think it's going to be just fine. I have very little concerns with Dylan Cruz. I'd be shocked if we run this thing through the rest of the way, through 2 more conference weekends, a conference tournament, and whatever regional play they have, and he doesn't hit a white-hot streak where they can't get him out. And quite frankly, if he's going to go through a swoon, I'll take it right now. This is the perfect spot for it. You've already socked away 16 conference wins. Your RPI's in the top 4. You've basically secured a host site. You're well on your way to securing a top 8. And if you lose 2 games, your season's not over. So if there's going to be a time for a swoon, I'd rather do it when you've already built up a ton of wins, and they don't necessarily matter if you lose the next couple weekends. Fair? I think that's fair. The Tigers win at 14-4 against Northwestern State. They improved to 38-10. Only lost 2 midweek games. 1 more to go against McNeese State next week. And LSU in good shape as they move into a series against Mississippi State. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, I'll give you my thoughts. If I had one game, had to win it, am I giving the ball to Aaron Nola? Am I giving the ball to Paul Skeens? That's next.
This is On Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off plus 0.9% APR for 60 months on all new 22 Ford F-150 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, live Baton Rouge. Operator, what you put me on through? Gotta send my love down to
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparkling.
Jimmy Ott for Game Time, live from Snow's Seafood and Steak, Airline Highway at Highway 74 in Gonzales. 6 to 8 p.m. Wednesday, got a bunch of guests giving out picks. Game Time on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Ole Miss hits a 2-run homer to take a 2-run lead on LSU softball in the 10th inning. They are now playing the bottom half, and the Tigers don't have anybody on, and there are 2 outs. So LSU down to its last out in extras up in Fayetteville in the SEC softball tournament. All right, let's do it. LSU's had a lot of really, really good baseball players over the years. And there's no perfect way to compare eras, but I think it's fun. And I think we can have the discussion here between the 2 greatest pitchers in the modern era of LSU baseball. Certainly Ben McDonald would factor into this discussion. But for now, we're going to do Nola and Skeens. So, again, as I said, there's no perfect way to do this because the 2 are not totally comparable. Aaron was here for 3 years. Paul Skeens is going to pitch here for 4.5, 5 months. The eras are different. When Aaron pitched, they had dulled the bats down. And statistically speaking, it was about 2 runs a game difference. You look at the country's ERA, you look at the country's runs scored. It's about 2 runs higher now as Skeens is doing this as compared to what Aaron did. So I'm going to kind of lay out the case for both and then tell you the way I feel, because after diving into this and kind of living through it the way that I have, I've got an opinion. I was on the beat day to day, my full-time job, covering the LSU baseball team when Aaron pitched here. I went on the road with him some. I went to College Station. I went to Starkville. I went to Oxford. I went to Hoover. I went to Omaha. I was at every home game. I covered all of Aaron's career. And Skeens, I've seen just about every pitch he's thrown, if not every pitch he's thrown to this point. So I've seen it pretty much all. I've got a pretty good idea of what it looked like and what it felt like, and then you go back and kind of look at the numbers. And we'll start with Aaron. He was the SEC's Pitcher of the Year in 2013 and 2014. 2013 is when he kind of came into his own. If you remember, he was a freshman on the 2012 team that featured Kevin Gosman, and he kind of made his way into the back end of the rotation. He actually started Game 1 of the Stony Brook Super Regional as a freshman. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to talk about Aaron's last 2 years, which were incredible, and Paul Skeens' year this year, which has been incredible. Paul's numbers weren't quite as good as at Air Force, a little different ballgame there with him hitting and catching and doing all that. We're going to basically take Aaron's last 2 years as the number 1 in the Southeastern Conference Pitcher of the Year, and Paul's this year, which he'll be the SEC's Pitcher of the Year. In Aaron's last 94 1/3 innings as a sophomore in 2013 on that team that was so good and then got to Omaha and went 2 and out. In his last 94 1/3 innings that year, he allowed 10 runs. That's a .95 ERA. Over a stretch against Arkansas on the road, against Bama on the road, a home series against South Carolina, and a home series against Florida, 4 straight SEC teams, he threw 4 consecutive complete game wins. That year in the regional, super regional in Omaha, Aaron faced Sam Houston State, Oklahoma and Jonathan Gray, and UCLA and Adam Plutko. He threw 24 innings over those 3 starts and did not allow an earned run. Now, if you'll remember, against Sam Houston, LSU made 3 errors in the first inning. Sam Houston built a lead in the first inning, and Aaron's pitch count climbed over 40. So he did give up some runs there, but they were unearned. 24 innings pitched over the 3 starts, no earned runs, 17 strikeouts, 2 walks. Of course, everyone remembers how Herculean he was against Jonathan Gray, throwing a 2-hit complete game shutout against a top 5 pick in the draft. To basically put that super regional on ice. Once LSU slayed Goliath there in Jonathan Gray, it was over. And then he went to Omaha, and he was brilliant against UCLA, and 1 ground ball up the middle that Bregman kicked cost LSU that game. His shortest outing that year as a sophomore after March 15th was 6 2/3 innings. That was his shortest outing. He was sensational that year. He came back in 2014 as the best pitcher in college baseball, and he went 11-1 as a junior with a 1.47 ERA for the year. He made 16 starts that year and allowed 3 or more runs twice. So 14 of his 16 starts, he allowed 2 or fewer. He went 6+ innings in 15 of those 16 starts. He was absolutely lights out every single time he took the baseball. He had 1 outing over a 2-year span that I would categorize as average. For whatever reason, Tennessee scored 5 runs on him. They weren't even good that year. Just an odd day. But he was brilliant. I think the statistic that most encapsulates what Aaron did in his last 2 years is that he made 33 starts over 2 years. LSU went 30-3 in those 33 starts. And in those 3 losses, LSU scored 1 run, 1 run, and 1 run. Two of the 3 times LSU lost an Aaron Nola start over the last 2 years, they lost 2-1. They lost 2-1 in Gainesville. They lost 2-1 in Omaha against UCLA. And the other time, they lost a 4-1 game. The opponent scored 8 total runs in the 3 games that LSU lost that Aaron Nola pitched. He was a workhorse. He worked deep into games every week. LSU almost always won when he was out there. He was, at the time he walked off the mound, in my opinion, the greatest pitcher in LSU baseball history. Now, I'm jaded in that way, and I admit it fully because I did not see Ben pitch, and I don't fully understand that era of college baseball. I just wasn't old enough to get it. And I realized that it was a different time, and Ben was pitching ridiculous workloads and coming out of the outfield to pitch in regional. Like, it was just a different world. But what I watched week in and week out of Aaron Nola, I looked at it and I went, this is unbelievable that a pitcher could show up and be excellent every single time. He was going to go 8 innings of 1-run baseball. Every time. It was just remarkable. 30-3 LSU was in his starts. And then you had Lang, who was awesome. And you had Cole Henry, who had a really nice year. And you had Landon Marceau, who was putting the team on his back. And Mikhail Hilliard did a great job. But not until Paul Skeens has someone truly approached Aaron Nola. And this story's not written yet. I don't know what Paul Skeens is going to do on Saturday night of a regional. I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he throws a 15 strikeout game in the National Championship Series. So the story's not written, and I know that, but I think it's a fun discussion to have. Skeens has made 12 starts thus far. He's completed 6 innings in all 12, except the USC game where Lightning got him. He has completed 7 innings 3 times in 12 starts. There's a little bit of a differentiator there. And he's only recorded 1 out in the 8th inning all season. That was against Auburn. However, Paul Skeens has 139 strikeouts right now in basically 73 innings, 72 and 2/3. We'll call it 73. He's thrown 73 innings and struck out 139. Aaron Nola led the SEC in strikeouts in 2013 with 122. Skeens already has 17 more. And we still got a long way to go. Skeens is going to threaten the LSU strikeout record. In terms of sheer domination and missing bats, it's not a comparison. Skeens is already blown by Aaron Nola. He strikes out 10 every time he goes out there. I mean, you listen to the strikeout totals that Skeens has rattled off. 12 against Western Michigan, 11 against Kansas State, 13 against Butler, 12 against Samford, 11 against A&M. Then you get into conference play, 12 on Arkansas, 12 on Tennessee, 13 on Kentucky, 11 against Ole Miss, 9 against Alabama, 15 at Auburn. He struck out double digits all but one time it was possible. And the one time it was impossible, he only threw 3 innings before Lightning came. He had 8 on South Carolina. LSU is 10-2 in games that Skeens starts, and one of those losses, he got cut short because of Lightning. And I can't really pin that one on him. So basically, if you take that one out, they're 10-1. And the loss was the Arkansas game where LSU scored 1 run in 9 innings, same as Nola. Basically, if Skeens or Nola is pitching and LSU can put up a 2 spot, you're undefeated. Pretty good. So where do we fall on this? You've got a 2-year track record of continued innings eating, bat missing, run preventing dominance from Aaron Nola. And we've got the hardest throwing starting pitcher that Keith Law has ever scouted. A guy who's going to go first or second in the draft. He's going to be the conference pitcher of the year. And at times makes really good college lineups look completely overmatched. I weighed all this out. I gave it some thought. I opened my mind to both sides of this discussion. And keep in mind, Paul Skeens' last outing against Auburn, to me, looked different than really any of the other ones because of the effectiveness with the slider and the changeup. You're talking about a 9-mile-an-hour difference. Aaron was 92, 93, got 95 when he wanted it. Skeens is 99, 100, got 101 when he wants it. And if he pitches like he did against Auburn, the discussion may change a little bit. But I'll tell you this. My answer is Aaron Nola. When Aaron Nola took the mound, I didn't have to worry about pitch count. I didn't have to worry about command. I honestly didn't really have to worry about LSU winning. What happened against UCLA is just, I can't believe Paul Maneri can even sleep at night thinking about that. Because if you remember the draw they had, in 2013, there were 3 teams that totally separated themselves from college baseball. It was LSU, it was Vanderbilt, and it was North Carolina. They were clearly the 3 best teams. Vanderbilt got beat and didn't get to Omaha. And North Carolina was on LSU's side of the bracket, but they had to face Carlos Rodon of NC State in the first round, and he beat them. So LSU was going to face a Rodonless NC State to take the driver's seat of that regional if they could beat UCLA behind Nola. And that was a given because no one could beat Nola. And UCLA didn't beat them. They scored 1 earned run. But Bregman kicked a ground ball, and LSU hit a bunch of balls to the warning track, and they lost. But I have to worry at times if Skeens is going to run that pitch count up and he's going to be gone in the 6th. With Aaron, I didn't have to worry about that. Jonathan Gray, 2013 Super, 9 innings, shutout. Even the game he pitched against UCLA, where LSU lost the game, you never had to worry about any kind of length. He was going to give you that. In the game against UCLA, Aaron threw 8 innings. You just didn't score. He scored 1 run. Cat's homer. So I am thrilled that Paul Skeens is going to take the baseball on Friday for LSU. I am thrilled that he will take the ball in massive games in the postseason because I think LSU is going to win when he pitches because he is as dominating a force as we've seen at LSU. Don't just take my word for it. Take Jim Schlossnagle's word for it at A&M. Take Keith Law's word for it. Take Joe Healy, Mark Etheridge, Kendall Rogers. We had all those guys on. People that have been in this sport for 30 years. They single out Skeens with Strasburg. So does Jay Johnson. I'm just saying, if I want to win a game, I'm giving it to 10. Those are my thoughts. Citizens Bank and Trust poll question of the day. It's up. You got one game to win. Is it Skeens or Nola? It's at 1045 ESPN on Twitter. We'll give you the results at the end of the show. I'm fascinated to hear what you think. Can't go wrong either way. And I wouldn't tell you, I mean, that's just what I think based on having seen it all and then going through the numbers. Look in the Bayou Ford chat, see what you guys think. When we come back, it's What If Wednesday on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. Guys, if you're late to the Mother's Day show, you just don't know what you're going to do, you got to get a card, I don't have a gift, just call David Duvall, One Bath and Closets. How about a custom bathroom for the mother in your life? Sounds great to me. Probably sounds great to her. They can do a full-scale renovation from the ground up. You just call one contractor. You don't have to call four people. You don't have to have a floor guy, plumbing guy, electrician. David Duvall and his team handle all of it. Maybe it's not that complex. You just want to do a tub-to-shower conversion. They can do that too. Take that tub out if you don't ever use it. Put in a gorgeous walk-in shower. One Bath and Closets is your spot there. Go to onebathandclosets.com. Set up your free consultation. Check the testimonials out. Look at pictures of their great work. And let them come in and put a customized bathroom in your home. Onebathandclosets.com is the website. Onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-7.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. We'll recap LSU Northwestern State from the box. Our SEC Spring Recap looking at the champion Bulldogs. And it's a Whiskey Wednesday. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Wouldn't be an SEC baseball or softball tournament if they didn't get significantly behind the schedule. LSU and Ole Miss played 10 innings earlier. Ole Miss beats the Tigers 2-run homer by the Rebels in the top of the 10th inning. LSU does not score in the bottom half, so Betharina's squad loses in their opener of the Southeastern Conference tournament up in Fayetteville. Krista Mooey is going to be with us in an hour talking LSU baseball, but it's time for What If Wednesday.
Space. Reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
First one up here. What if LSU beats Florida in the 2017 College World Series and wins another title under Maneri?
I think that changes the way you view the era. Paul did such a great job. I mean, they were consistently awesome. He won a national title. He turned the program around that was really struggling. I mean, in my high school years, that baseball program, the wheels were falling off. And his first year at LSU was my first year at LSU. And they weren't very good in 2007, but in 2008 they went on the run, and then 2009 they win the national championship, and got it rekindled in 2012 with Gosman and Nola and Katz and Rhymes and all those guys, and they had just such a great team in 2013 that should have won it. We just went through it. With Nola and the way that team hit and played defense, they should have won the national championship that year, and they just didn't get it done. They lost that opener to UCLA and then didn't hit against North Carolina, and Cody Glenn went out there and he hadn't pitched in a couple of weeks, and they didn't have enough. And then they got back and had a great team in 2015, and Poche couldn't throw it to first base against TCU. They had Lang ready to go in Game 2 of that World Series, but then they finally kicked the door down in 2017. They had that ridiculously historic 2-day run against an Oregon State team that was obscenely good. And if you go back and look, there were like 9 big leaguers between the two teams that were playing over those 2 days. And you had the heroic effort from Caleb Gilbert. And they got to the championship series to play Florida, and they got the advantage that Florida had to use Alex Faedo in the game to get to the championship series. So they weren't going to have to face Faedo in the championship series, except for maybe 2 innings at the end of maybe Game 3. And Lang was keyed up and ready to go in Game 3 on rest. And they had to start Russell Reynolds in the first game and Slaughter with the double play, the interference call. But I do think that Maneri's era is looked upon differently if they get that second one. If he's the coach anywhere else, he's revered for winning a national championship and for getting close 2 more times, and that's incredible. But at LSU, he takes a job in 2007, and Skip had been there. It was within the last 6 years, so it just feels different around here. I personally think Paul was brilliant in his time at LSU, and I think Jay's picked things up and has just been sensational to start. But it would change if you've got a second one. You can't really look at it any other way than just an incredible run. And I think there are some people that would look at it and go, it's LSU, you're supposed to win one, which I think is ridiculous. But it would change the way people looked at it.
Yeah, I would agree too. I think a lot of people do think that, Maneri wasn't A lot of people, I think most LSU fans revere him as a coach, but in terms of only getting one national championship in that time and all the talented teams he had, I think a lot of people do kind of understate his ability as a coach. I agree with you, though. I think he is brilliant as well. All right, moving on here. What if Will Wade had coached the 2019 tournament?
Yeah, so obviously he gets suspended right before senior day against Vanderbilt. That team wins the SEC, and they beat Yale in a game where they played pretty well in the tournament, and then they went and beat Maryland on the buzzer beater by Tremont. And then you play Michigan State. And I just, as much as I loved that 19 team, they were very, very good. You had Tremont, Skyler, Nas, Emmett, Cabell, and it was such a good team. Just watching that game against Michigan State felt like they were better. I'm mad at myself because their point guard's name is escaping me. He had the wristbands on, and he was not a pro, but he was just incredible point guard. Somebody in the Bayou Ford chat will help me out with that. And they were just a better team. They were more skilled, I thought, than LSU was, and they came out. And I remember previewing that game start to finish, and because I had the podcast at the time, and I was going, look, you just got to hope they have one of those games where they don't shoot it great. And they just came out and made a bunch of threes.
Was it Cassius Winston?
Cassius Winston is it, yeah. And I couldn't. I once they started making those threes, I went that we were going to need an off night. And LSU made a charge in the second half, but I don't think Will could have helped in that one. You were just not quite as good a team as that Michigan State team, and that showed itself on that night. So I think it sucked not to have him there, and I wish he was there, but I don't think it shortened LSU's postseason run at all.
Yeah, I mean, State had 13 threes that night, or 40% from three. It's tough to.
They were going to have to shoot 21% for LSU to win that game.
Yep. All right, moving on here. What if Bo Jackson doesn't have the hip injury? Is he a bigger star in football or baseball?
When I think Bo, I think football. I mean, I think of the ridiculous throw from left field he makes and running up the outfield wall after catching it, and some of the unbelievable things that he did, breaking the bat over his knee and being the physical freak. But I also don't think of him as like, I know he made an all-star team, and he was definitely really good, but I don't think of him as one of the greatest baseball players who ever lived, and I do think of him as one of the greatest football players who ever lived. So maybe I'm wrong on that because I didn't see it with my own eyes, and somebody that's got 10 years on me might have a more perspective, and certainly you've got 30 years on me, you've got a better perspective. But when I think Bo, I think all-time great in football. I think really good baseball player. So to me, I think it's football.
Yeah, just looking at his slash lines, I mean, he's 250 career batting average, 309 OBP, 474 slugging, 784 OPS.
Good player.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, but he had over 100 strikeouts in almost every season when he actually played a full season. So he was a great athlete. But yeah, I would agree with you there. Last one here, or second to last one. What if you could go back and relive any moment in sports history?
Oh my God. I guess meaning be there and watch it. Any moment in sports history. Holy cow. That's nuts. For some reason, my head went to some of those like Ali boxing matches that I would just. It's so foreign to me, how big boxing was in the 60s, 70s, into the 80s. And I would think that like being in some of those environments with the heavyweights that were the massive names. Like I live in a world now where no one can even name the heavyweight champion of the world. Like it's just the sport died. And like I don't ever watch boxing, but that feels like something I might want to see. Two superstars going toe-to-toe in the ring. That comes to mind. I mean, I start thinking about some of the incredible moments in football and baseball. Joe Carter and Bobby Thompson hitting home runs. Man, that's really hard on the spot to think of. If I could go back and relive any moment in sports, I mean, I'd have loved to have been on the 16th green in Augusta when Tiger hit that chip against DeMarco that went up and rolled back and went in. The Ryder Cup when Justin Leonard made the putt comes to my mind too. I'm all over the place thinking about what I would be.
Once you start turning
it's just hard to come up with another one.
Yeah.
And then you've got some of the stuff that Michael Jordan did, which is just incredible to think about. Let me come up with an answer here. If there's a moment in sports that I'd like to to go back and relive. Okay, I just thought of one. And this is going to be my final answer because there's a reason for it. I would like to go back to Babe Ruth calling his shot at Wrigley because nobody can tell if he actually did it.
Yeah.
There's like the grainy video of him maybe pointing at the picture. I'd like to go back and just see if the guy actually said, I'm about to hit a home run right there and actually did it. Like that, I could answer a question and relive an all-time sports moment that has been made into legend and lore. That may be my final answer. I would go back and see Babe Ruth call a shot and see if the guy actually did it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know why, but I know this probably wouldn't be an answer for many people. But for me, it's just I was thinking the Miracle on Ice. I know it's like the greatest upset in world sports history, so I'd probably go with that one. But.
Interesting caveat. My dad watched the Miracle on Ice on the ramp of the Assembly Center.
Really?
Lining up for a basketball game that was the next day, and he wasn't even a student at LSU anymore. He was in dental school. And he got a student's ID that didn't look anything like him and camped out on the PMAC, and they all watched the Miracle on Ice on tape delay. That's awesome. On the ramp of the PMAC. So just a little nugget on the Miracle on Ice.
Nice. All right. What if you could go back and relive any moment in LSU sports history?
That narrows it down. I mean, I think the one that everybody goes to immediately would be Warren Morris, and I was very young for that. If that happened today, if LSU hit a walk-off home run to win the College World Series today, I might go into cardiac arrest. I might. But I'll leave that one since it's such an obvious one. I have no sense of what the environment was that night when Billy Cannon ran the Halloween night run back.
Exactly.
I don't know were people wearing like suits and ties then, or was that just baseball in the 20s? Like I don't know. How did it feel in Tiger Stadium? That to me is very foreign. I would love to go relive a lot of the ones that I've been in Tiger Stadium for over the last 20 years, and one that I wasn't this past year when I was at my cousin's wedding for the LSU Bama upset in overtime. And I'd like to see that one as well. But I have no sense of what it was like on Halloween night when Billy Cannon ran that back, and I'd like to go back and give that a look.
I'd probably go with that one or the Earthquake game. That's great.
Earthquake game is good. I feel like in the 80s, though, it was more close to what I remember in the 90s when I do remember going. I don't know what that place was like in the 50s, and I would like to kind of go back and relive that. So those are that's a What If Wednesday. I thought that was a good one. That was fun. We'll come back and close out hour number 1. LSU basketball got a commitment yesterday, and I'll tell you what they got in Devin Pryor next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana like Dr. Robert Jackson. I'm a Northwest Louisiana guy. Dr. Robert Jackson is a Northwest Louisiana guy, and he founded the MLK Health Center and Pharmacy up in Shreveport, my neck of the woods. That clinic provides over $16 million in services to over 1,700 patients each and every year. These clinics are so important in states like ours where we have a high uninsured rate. And the clinic operates at no expense to the patient, returns an average of $25 to the community for every $1 invested in the center. Dr. Robert Jackson, truly a champion of Louisiana. If you know of a champion of Louisiana, we want to tell their story. And LWCC is on a mission to get as many of these stories told as they can. So if you go to lwcc.com/champions, you can see the champions we've talked about over the last year, and you can nominate a champion of Louisiana right there. We want you to do that. Dr. Robert Jackson, a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's
Jimmy Yacht for Game Time, live from Snow's Seafood and Steak, Airline Highway at Highway 74 in Gonzales. 6 to 8 p.m. Wednesday. Got a bunch of guests giving out picks. Game Time on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Matt McMahon reeled in a commitment for the class of 2024, which means just completing junior year of high school, and it is Devon Pryor from over in Houston, Texas. He goes to a high school with a lot of letters in it. PSAT-XEA Academy. I don't know what that means. I don't really care, but that's what his high school is listed as. I can tell you this: there's a little bit of tape on Devon Pryor, and I liked what I saw. He's 6'7", 180 pounds. He's got really long arms. He's 6'7", and he plays high school basketball above the rim. He catches a bunch of alley-oops and lobs. He blocks shots. He puts back dunks on missed shots. He rebounds. He's the kind of guy you have to have in modern basketball that is a wing-type player. He's not a post player. He's a wing player, but he's got long arms, and he's a great athlete. He's raw as a basketball player. That you can see. You don't see a ton of him handling the ball or making a ton of passes. He's not some prolific scorer. That's why he's a 3-star recruit by the services and looked at as maybe a top 50 player at his position. But what you can tell from reading what people who are in the industry are saying is this kid is really rising fast. There are a lot of teams that are very interested in his. It's not that his offer list is poor. He's got Colorado, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, Virginia Tech. Those are high major teams that are offering him. This is not some project they're picking up. This kid can play, and I like this ad. These are the kind of guys that you really like to get into your program because there's a really high upside with a kid this athletic at 6'7". If he can develop some shooting touch and some scoring ability over the next 2 or 3 years, you've got a really, really good player. And that's what Matt McMahon has done in his career is go find some diamonds in the rough at Murray State and make them into really good players. Of course, John Morant's the most famous example, but KJ Williams is very similar to that. Now, I can hear you, the LSU fan, saying, well, you can't win with 3 stars. This is not Murray State. I'm with you. But in this day and age of the transfer portal, the bulk of your team is going to be made up that way. I'd like him to add a 5-star here and there, and he did last year. They added a 5-star with Tyrell Ward. They added a 4-star with Jalen Reed. Corey Chest is a highly thought of player, and so it's not like he's not recruiting at all. But he's only going to bring in 1, 2, or 3 high school kids a year, and they're going to go to the transfer portal and pull in a bunch of 22-year-olds. He told us that on the show last year, I want to be old. And if you watched the tournament this past year, there were a lot of teams advancing real deep with a bunch of guys who were probably 2- and 3-star recruits coming out of high school, but now they're 22 years old. So I want really highly rated players, and this kid may become a 4-star pretty quick. That's basically where the industry thinks this is going. So this is 2 different discussions. One, I like the Devon Pryor pickup. I think the kid is a high upside kid, probably a 4-star, and has a skill set you can't teach. You can't teach 6'7" with long arms that can run and jump and move, and he's a super athlete. But I also understand that the value of the 5-star recruit is not quite what it was once upon a time, because you can get great productive players from elsewhere. So this is a positive for LSU. This guy's going to be here in 2 years. Fact remains, the bulk of your roster is going to be made up, as long as Matt McMahon's here and the rules are in place, from 21, 22-year-old guys. They're going to go get Jordan Wright. They're going to go get Jalen Cook. They're going to go get KJ Williams. That's how this thing's going to roll. So I think this is good. It's 2 years down the road. They've still got a lot of work to do, but you know that Matt McMahon is out recruiting like crazy, because the roster situation never ceases in college sports these days. So Devon Pryor from Houston, good pickup for LSU and Matt McMahon. That's hour number 1 here on a Wednesday. Went over LSU Northwestern State, Skeens versus NOLA debate. I gave you my thoughts on it. It was a What If Wednesday. We'll come back after Sports Center, get some projections for college baseball regionals, and we'll chat with Chris Demui in 35 minutes. Come back after Sports Center. Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
The best-kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team.
This is Sports. I'm Kevin Winter News. We're following on Sports Center. Bob Huggins is going to remain as the West Virginia basketball coach, but he will be punished after a radio interview earlier this week in which he used an anti-gay slur. ESPN's Pete Thamel, the first to report that Huggins and the school finalized the terms of his punishment, which include a 3-game suspension, a $1 million salary reduction, and sensitivity training. Nuggets, Sixers, Heat, and Lakers all sit one win away from the NBA's conference finals. Miami and L.A. have their first chances to move on tonight. The Heat go into Madison Square Garden, leading 3-1, facing Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks in Game 5.
It's definitely a hole that we need to dig ourselves out of, but we can't really focus on games 6 or 7. We got to focus on the first quarter of Game 5 and then move on from there.
That is tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Second game of the national TV doubleheader has the Lakers in San Francisco up 3-1, trying to knock out the defending champions. ESPN radio coverage of the Lakers and the Warriors begins 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The game is available. Select ESPN radio stations, the ESPN app, and SiriusXM Channel 80. Afternoon baseball in the Bronx. Yep, home runs galore. 11-3. Yankees lead the A's. They're in the 7th. Dodgers lead the Brewers 8-1.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on this Wednesday, half the work week in the rear view mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We'll talk some baseball postseason projections here. It's that time of the year to start staring at them. I'll be quite honest. I look at these a little bit differently than I think some. I'll tell you how I evaluate these projections. I don't really care, especially right now on May 10th, who they say they're putting in LSU's regional. Like, we've seen easy ones like Tulane and ULL and ULM and Southern and those schools show up here. We've seen Oregon State here. We've seen Stony Brook here in a regional, not the super regional, the regional a couple of years ago. We've seen LSU go to Corvallis. I mean, you just don't really know. So I don't really care who they put in your regional. I'm just kind of looking in generalities of where LSU could be slotted, 1 through 16. After that, you never really know. Like last year, we kind of thought maybe Hattiesburg was a chance, and you know that you can't go to any of the SEC teams if you're not hosting. But I'm kind of looking as where they have LSU slotted, and who are some teams that I'm just kind of keeping an eye on that could be a bump in the road on the way to Omaha. And so if you're LSU, you know that in your regional you cannot see any SEC teams. That's not going to happen. And you know that's the best league in college baseball. I can look at the RPIs. Kentucky's 1, LSU's 3, South Carolina's 4, Arkansas's 5, Vanderbilt's 6. The SEC has 5 of the top 6 RPI teams. Florida's at 11. Bama's at 15. I mean, like, you get the point. So in a regional, you're not going to see anybody in the SEC. And if you're a top 8, you're not going to see anybody from the top 8 in a super. Once you start forecasting to Omaha, you're putting way too many variables in there. I'm just kind of looking at some teams that are hovering around a spot where you may see them on the way to Omaha. And in this case, with this year, as you look at LSU, the question is, are they going to be the number 1 overall seed? There's a sizable portion of you, the fan base, you, our listenership, that doesn't want LSU to be the 1 seed because the 1 seed hasn't won since 1999. I don't really care about that. In my opinion, LSU is not going to play any differently if they get behind in the 6th inning of an elimination game in a regional because they're the 1 seed or because they were number 1 all year or because on the other side they dropped to number 2 at some point. And then I just don't think that matters. This LSU team has been talking about going to Omaha since January. Jay Johnson laid out goals for them and characteristics they needed to embody to go to Omaha and win a national championship since January. That is not new. I don't care that nobody's won it since 1999 as the 1 seed. Doesn't really matter to me. If it matters to you, fine. Maybe you want to be the 1 seed. Maybe you don't, and you want to be the 2. But right now, that's the biggest thing that we can point to and have a direct discussion about. Every projection that I've seen today, D1 Baseball just came out with theirs within the hour. Baseball America has theirs up, and Yahoo's got some as well. All 3 of those have moved Wake Forest to the number 1 national seed and bumped LSU down to 2. LSU is the number 2 national seed in all 3 projections. Is that the right thing to do? Well, let's look at the metrics. Wake Forest has a number 2 RPI. That's better than LSU's at 3. Wake Forest's record in Quadrant 1 is 17-5. LSU's is 14-8. Wake's is better. Wake has not lost a series all year. LSU's lost 1. And Wake has a comfortable 3.5 game lead in their conference. LSU is not leading its conference. I believe it is the correct move to move Wake Forest to the number 1 overall seed. It would be difficult for me to make an argument otherwise. You would have to go to LSU's strength of schedule, which is 11th in the country, and Wake Forest is 29th. LSU's non-conference strength of schedule is 99th, and Wake's is 153. So both strength of schedule metrics feature and benefit LSU. Everything else, Quadrant 1 wins, Quadrant 1 and 2 wins, even RPI top 25 wins, Wake is better than LSU. So right now, I believe that's correct. What Wake has coming up is, of course, relevant to LSU, who is playing a soft into their schedule with Mississippi State and Georgia. Wake is playing Florida State, which sounds on its face to be, oh, that's a tough series. Florida State stinks. They're terrible. It's a bad baseball team. They made a terrible, terrible decision when the legend walked out the door to just hand the keys to his kid. That was stupid. I don't know why these powerful, proud programs don't go out and hire a coach. But that program got run into the ground. Now, Link Jarrett got a chance to revive it, but Florida State nosedived after Mike Martin left. So they're not very good. Those are not Quadrant 1 wins. They are losses that could negatively affect Wake Forest's RPI. They're not strength of schedule builders. LSU's in the same boat this weekend with Mississippi State. State's probably not going to be a Quadrant 1 game for LSU because they've been terrible in conference play. So both Wake and LSU are in situations where they can't really help themselves this weekend, but they can hurt themselves. And then you go to the final weekend where Virginia Tech is waiting on Wake Forest. Virginia Tech's going to be Quadrant 1. They're right on that buffer, but they're going to be Quad 1. And Wake could obviously help themselves there. LSU will play Georgia. You look at Georgia's RPI to this point, and they sit there at 29. That'll be Quad 1. So LSU and Wake Forest are in very similar positions. If LSU wants to overtake the number 1 overall seed, Wake's going to have to trip up either against Florida State or against Virginia Tech, and LSU is going to have to slam the door on these 2 series. Remember, the committee does value accomplishments that aren't borne out in the numbers. Last year, A&M's RPI was pushing 20, but they won the SEC West, a very tough division, and they got a top 8 seed, even with an RPI pushing 20. And that was the reason why. So Wake winning the ACC, which they're going to do, is going to be a big feather in their cap. And I think it's now at this point likely to me that LSU is not the number 1 seed. Depends on how things go the next couple of weeks, is whether they're 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the case may be. But I don't think that LSU is going to be the number 1 seed. We'll see. Maybe Wake falters. Happened to LSU against Auburn, and we didn't expect that. But if you look at the rest of the top 8s, for D1 baseball, they've got Vanderbilt as the 3 seed, Arkansas as the 4, Stanford as the 5, Duke as the 6th, West Virginia as the 7th, and Kentucky as the 8th. No one did more service to themselves over the weekend than Kentucky, who was very much off the hosting picture and really fighting for their lives down the stretch to get into the tournament, even with the ridiculous RPI, because they could have lost 7 weekends in a row. They sweep South Carolina, bang. Your RPI is 1, and you were a top 8. Now, Kentucky's still got work to do. They're 14-10 in the league. And as we know, the back end of their schedule is brutal. They're at Tennessee, and then they got through with Florida. They could struggle over their last 6, and they could play themselves way out of that. But I mentioned that Kentucky's going to Tennessee this weekend. And Tennessee is a team that I'm eyeballing, because Tennessee is hovering between that 14 to 24 mark in terms of where they would be positioned in the NCAA field. They could play themselves to a host because their RPI is 20 right now. And if you take care of business against RPI number 1 Kentucky, and then you go to South Carolina and you take care of business there, you could be a host. They probably can't get to a top 8 unless they swept it. I mean, if they swept it over those 6, and then you looked up and in the conference you're 18-12, yeah, you could play yourself to a top 8, but that's kind of unlikely. Tennessee is a team that I'd kind of like to avoid in the Supers, because Stolater's numbers aren't great, and Beam's numbers haven't been great the last 2 weeks, but I've seen them, and I'd really not rather play a guy that's going to go in the first 15 picks in the draft. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on Tennessee because they're just floating out there. If you look at D1 baseball, Florida is 9 and South Carolina is 10. Those teams could very well play themselves into the top 8. Don't really want to play Florida in a Super either. They'd have to back up significantly, or LSU would have to back up for that to happen. But you start to look at some others that are right now super regional projected hosts. I mean, a regional projected host, which is Clemson, Coastal Carolina, Miami, Boston College, Oklahoma State, and Connecticut. In this D1 baseball projection, LSU's regional is paired with Oklahoma State's regional. So that's a team that's kind of floating in that vicinity. If you look at Baseball Americas, as I mentioned, everybody's got LSU as the 2 seed. They do as well. They've got LSU paired up with Indiana State. Indiana State being the 15 seed. But who's Indiana State's number 2 seed in Baseball America? It's Tennessee. Because the Vols don't host, they're probably going to be the 2 seed in one of the lesser regionals, which will match up with the better regionals, which LSU figures to be a part of. That's a team I'm looking at. You send me Dallas Baptist or UConn, which are 2 of the other 2 seeds I'm looking at this, I'm feeling good about it. You send me Tennessee, I'm still feeling good about it because I like LSU's team. That's a team that I'm eyeballing. I'll be very, very honest with you. I'm not as concerned with Indiana or Oregon or West Virginia. I'm more concerned with Tennessee. And I know Tennessee's 2-10 on the road in the league. 2-10. Swept at Missouri. But it's just, I know what they got on the staff, and it makes me a little nervous. So we'll continue to monitor this. We'll have a much clearer picture next week. Really feel like you can start to project solidly next week what needs to happen for something to happen. And LSU has created such a position of strength for themselves with the RPI, the strength of schedule, the conference record, the top 50 wins, that there's just not a lot of variability that can be had over what would be a 5-game stretch for them. You look at 3, I'm talking about after this weekend. You got Mississippi State this weekend. You get those in the rearview mirror. And I think if LSU can win 2 this weekend, you're looking at a situation where you've just about locked up a top 8. 18 league wins with that RPI, it's going to be tough to not be a top 8. So we'll have a little more concrete this time next week when projections come out. But just my major talking points from this situation right here is Wake Forest, I think, clearly is the number 1 seed right now. Subject to change as things happen, but I think clearly the number 1 seed right now. And I'm just kind of looking around the chicken coop at who figures in towards the back half of the hosting bubble. Your Clemsons, your Miamis, your Indiana States, your Boston Colleges, your Tennessees. Those teams are some that you may see down the road. I'm interested. Fun time of year, my favorite time of year, quite frankly. When we come back, we got Kristen Mui coming in 15 minutes. But big news out of New Orleans with the Saints. We'll tell you what next.
This is On Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. BeliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
For live play-by-play this weekend when the Boston Red Sox host the St. Louis Cardinals, Saturday at 3 p.m. and Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Weekly chat with Chris Demouy coming up in 10 minutes. But first, great news out of New Orleans today. The Saints have agreed to terms with former Jesuit Blue Jay, former LSU Tiger, and now former Las Vegas Raider Foster Moreau. Of course, you know that the Saints brought Moreau in for a visit, and on that visit, they discovered that he had Hodgkin's lymphoma. And you hear that, and if you're someone like me who doesn't have any medical background or any real knowledge of that type of thing, it's terrifying. And I'm sure it was terrifying for Foster when he heard it. But according to those who do know and who are involved, the prognosis is very good for Foster Moreau with this Hodgkin's lymphoma. He continues his recovery and continues to fight it, but there's anticipation that he's going to play football this year in the NFL, which to me is incredible and kind of hard to believe. But it's fantastic news for him, and this is fantastic news for everybody involved because the Saints are in desperate need of solid tight end play, and Foster is very much that. We remember him as the guy who got one of the last spots on in LSU's class, and a guy who was a phenomenal player here, wore number 18, was a productive player, certainly knows how to block, and was a threat in the receiving game. Raiders brought him in, and he's been good for them, for Derek Carr. But you look at this Saints roster, and I think they had a lot of high hopes for what Adam Troutman could become, and it just never materialized at all. And you've kind of hit on a flyer here on Juwan Johnson, who's not really a tight end, but certainly has been productive for you. But he's kind of one-dimensional. He's a wide receiver who's playing tight end because he's bulked up. Foster Moreau is a tight end. And you figured that the Saints were going to draft somebody to be a tight end. The rounds keep coming by, and I didn't have any problem with them drafting defensive lineman, drafting another defensive lineman, going to get a playmaking potential wide receiver late in the draft. I don't have a huge issue with. Quarterback can take it or leave it. I don't think it's a terrible decision. But they never addressed tight end as the picks kept rolling through. And then Troutman's like, I'm out of here. And they traded him. So now you're looking at the roster going, well, they don't really have any tight ends. That's a problem. And Foster is a perfect fit because he is very capable of standing in there and blocking at the NFL level, and he is very capable of being productive in the receiving game. And he understands Derek Carr. They've played together, have a strong relationship. And I think it's fantastic. I don't know if he's going to play in preseason games. I don't know if he's going to play week 1. I don't know if he's going to play week 7. I don't know what exactly this prognosis is, but you have read enough and there are enough people that are speaking on it saying, yes, we expect to see him this year. So, look, I got to think, as far as roller coasters go, in the span of this short a time of 3 months to hear, hey, man, you got Hodgkin's lymphoma, to, hey, man, here's $8 million guaranteed, that has got to feel really good. And, oh, by the way, it's from the hometown team. And Foster grew up in New Orleans, played for the home state in college, and now he'll get a chance to play for the home state in the NFL, which is very, very cool. And it's just an even better story. If you see the picture that Beck's rolling behind me here, he's got the Defend Team Gleason shirt on with the No White Flags logo. And I'm again, like, floored at how quickly this materialized. But there's so many layers to it, from the Saints medical team being the one to catch this, to the draft going the way that it did as Foster steps back for a second from football, to Adam Troutman demanding to be out of town in this gaping hole in the roster that, oh, by the way, can be filled by a guy who's, one, from the city, and two, who owes a little bit of gratitude to your medical team for catching this in a physical. It's such a cool story, and I think one that's going to have an awesome, awesome ending. I like the Saints offense. I think the offensive line is solid. We'll see what Penning gets you. I think that your quarterback is solid, if unspectacular. I said what I said about the Derek Carr signing. It to me limits the ceiling, but certainly makes you a better team than you would have been without him this year. You address some needs at wide receiver over the last 2 drafts, and now you filled the hole at tight end, plus you got a new running back, one in free agency and one in the draft. The offense looks good to me. Defense, I got to see what this defensive line looks like. Got 2 free agents right in the middle of it, and a couple of draft picks you're going to count on with some of the role players, and then, of course, your stalwart and Cam Jordan. DeMario still got some in the tank there at linebacker. Got to stay healthy there, and then secondary is what it is. But this was a huge hole. There's no denying that. And I think they thought they had their perfect fit until they didn't because of the diagnosis. And now you come back a couple of months later, and he re-signs on the dotted line. So super, super story for Foster Moreau. I told this story a couple of months ago, so I'm not going to tell the whole thing again. But I just think it's a funny story of me personally in dealing with Foster's family. Foster's younger sister babysat for my cousin. And she was there babysitting at my cousin's house, and I went down to New Orleans to attend a wedding, and my cousin wasn't there, but I was showering, getting ready at their house, and I got ready, and I had 45 minutes to go before I left for the wedding, and Foster's sister was on the couch as she was babysitting the 2 infants. And we were watching a football game, and she says something about this big lineman who picked up a fumble and said, man, that guy looks huge. And so I said something like, yeah, I mean, I actually covered college football for a couple of years, and like, you really honestly you don't see guys this big really ever. I mean, they're massive, massive people when you see them, out and about. And she's like, oh yeah, my brother, he played at LSU. I was like, really? Who was it? Figuring it was some, walk-on that I never heard of that, played football at LSU. Like, Foster Moreau. I was like, oh, that's sticking your foot in your mouth right there. You're telling her how you never see guys like this in public. She grew up with one. You're an idiot. That's the gist of that. Awesome story for Foster Moreau. Awesome story for the Saints, and I think it's going to be a very, very happy ending for those two with the length of this contract. So we'll head out to the Jim's Firearms phone lines when we come back. It'll be Chris DeMuy talking baseball. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
On Thursday's OTB. Hear from LSU head man Jay Johnson as baseball looks to bounce back in the box. Plus, how did LSU softball fare in the Open to their SEC tournament? Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, earlier in the show, you heard my breakdown of Paul Skeens versus Aaron Nola and who I would give the ball if I had one game. We'll get the results of that poll coming up here in 15 minutes, but we'll get another vote in here from Chris Demouy, former Tiger Southpaw and host of the 60 feet 6 inch LSU baseball podcast. Demouy, you got one game, you got to win it. You go into Skeens, you go in Aaron Nola.
Well, I did see your Twitter poll, and so I'm old, so I had to remember how good Nola was. So I looked up his stats real quick, and good Lord.
They're pretty good.
Really, yeah, he was disgusting. I mean, I remember seeing him pitch, obviously, but I'm going Nola, right? I got to stick with my Catholic guy there. Skeens is tough to say no to, but I'll go Nola.
What made Skeens better and able to get deeper into the game on Friday night against Auburn?
I think his ability to, you've seen him adjust, whether it's him and Wes Johnson, they have a plan or they switch mid-game or whatever their plan is going into it. I think you saw the whole package, His two-seam was working really good again. He had the change-up going, and, teams are going to try to ambush that fastball when you throw up to 101, 102 miles an hour. I mean, you got to. So, he switched it up, and I think he got some early outs, right? You didn't see him missing too much when he was 0-2, 1-2 Auburn was aggressive and they helped him out, but it seemed like when he got strikeouts, he got them earlier in the count. You didn't see 3-2 counts with 3 or 4 foul balls anymore to where, that's a 10-pitch at bat instead of a 4-pitch at bat. So I think that really helped him out, and I thought he looked great. And the ability to get into the 8th was massive because they needed every one of those outs on Friday night.
We'll get to the 3 walks, the balk, and the wild pitch from Floyd, but what made him effective for the 7 straight strikeouts?
That was the best I thought his breaking ball looked all year and consistently, right? Thinking back on his outing, he was throwing it early in the count. He was throwing it back-to-back for strikes, and he was just aggressive in the strike zone. And I remember I was watching the game with my son. I was like, man, his breaking ball looks really, really good to where he just didn't have to rely on, 93 to 96 and falling behind in the counts. I thought the first 3 innings is the ceiling of Kai Floyd, right? That's how good he can be. He can be one of the best pitchers in America, and he was for those 3 innings, and then it just kind of fell apart a little bit.
It did. Why'd it fall apart?
I don't know.
Yep.
You got to ask Kai Floyd that. It's I thought the ball call was unfair. Look, you can get on any ex-LSU right-handed pitcher that played for Skip, and I'm sure Maneri and those guys did the same thing. But those guys worked on that same balk move literally 3 days a week in right field. We all went to work on our pickoff moves, and that was part of their repertoire. They had 4 or 5 different moves they could go to. So I even said on Twitter, if you're going to call that a balk, you need to call it's like every right-handed pitcher in the SEC does that, right? So that and then the ejection, and I'm not going to say I guess in the paper he said he lost focus. I just don't know. He just kind of lost his motion again and just he was close to getting out of it, and then 2 guys hitting 160 on the year just kind of ruined it for him.
So then you go to Sunday and Little can't throw a strike, and then the guy that you've been counting on, Griffin Herring, can't throw strikes, and it kind of got away from you there. But what did you take away big picture from that? Do they need to make a move in Game 3? Was it just a bad outing for Little? What's the fallout from that performance?
I hate to say, to say call for a kid's job per se, but I think they should definitely just take a look. I know based on the comments that Jay Johnson said, they're going to take a deep dive and look to do something else. And it's he's had a couple of good outings, but then I think he's had some more inconsistent outings probably than good ones. The kind of the bad outweighs the good. And it was just, look, I've been there. I even said on my podcast, I've been in that exact situation. I have not gotten out of the first. I threw 16 balls in a row in minor league baseball. I wanted to crawl into a hole. It was miserable. It's a horrible feeling. So I know how he felt. And it's just, sometimes you just got to take the pressure off of starting, put him back in the bullpen. Not that he's done anything wrong, and he can still help you out there and maybe just reassess. With the postseason coming up, and we talked about it, just different guys that can start, that can go 3 to 4 innings, he's still going to be a valuable piece of his staff moving forward. Just maybe time to give somebody else a look, I guess.
If it's time to give somebody else a look, who would you go to?
I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know if you've covered this earlier in the week. I've been traveling, but maybe like we've talked about before, maybe they go to an opener. I know people are going to automatically go to Thatcher Hurd, and I know he started last night. He did well, but he's looked so comfortable in the last couple outings at the back of the bullpen. I said on my preview podcast today, his last 4 outings, I think he's going 9 innings total with like 2 runs and 3 or 4 walks and like 13 strikeouts, right? So he's throwing really well. Do you want to mess that up? Is he comfortable going back into the starting rotation in the SEC? I don't know. Do you use Guidry as an opener? Do you go back to Cooper as an opener for 2? Just get those guys one time through the inning, and it's almost like a midweek matchup, how you see teams approach LSU. I don't have an answer, to be honest.
You concerned about Dylan Cruz's last 5 games at the Dish?
I put him on my the get right list, and I almost felt bad for doing it, right? Saying Dylan Cruz is the slump. He's the best hitter in the country. He's hitting 460-ish. I just felt like the lineup looked different, right? When he was struggling, and you have Gavin Dudas is really struggling, and the guys at the bottom of the lineup had a rough weekend last weekend. He's just too good of a hitter. I think he's popping some things up right now, and look, he's still taking his walks, right? He's still going to, find a way to get on base. His on-base percentage is disgusting. So I just like to see him. I'm sure he's going to try to hit the ball on the ground, get some line drives this weekend, try to get the ball out the air, and he'll turn things around. He's just too good of a hitter not to. But luckily, he's got the guy behind him who's just crushing the ball.
He is white hot. There's no question about. Well, that's a bad pun. I didn't even mean to do that, but he is he is very hot. So look, catcher wise, Travinsky's hitting the ball out of the ballpark at a pretty solid clip. He did it again last night. Would he be getting the majority of the starts, or were you still leaning towards Milazzo there?
I kind of like how they've been doing it. Milazzo on Friday. Maybe Travinsky's the Ty Floyd personal catcher. I'll throw the idea out there on a whim, and it seems like it's kind of held true. I have no idea if he is or not, and then toss a coin on Sunday for who starts, and then I think Travinsky could be a perfect DH candidate if some of those guys are struggling, right? If Peloso's struggling, or Joe Bear, or if you're facing a left-handed pitcher, Travinsky could definitely step in and do that. He's been a really nice surprise. Like, he showed some power last year, but just he's kind of taken on the mantra of the team, right? His comfort with 2 strikes has been uncanny the last couple of weeks, and he's showing some serious power. I like Milazzo Friday, Travinsky Saturday, and then flip a coin on Sunday.
All right, that's kind of a lot of the individuals step by step, but big picture, they lost their first weekend. Does that concern you at all, or is that just part of a 56-game schedule?
No, I think it's part of the 66-game schedule. Look, I mean, I kind of got some egg thrown on my face. I didn't think Auburn pitching staff was very good, and obviously they found something the last couple weekends, and I don't think they really hit the ball particularly well. I think LSU was kind of their own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And it's bound to happen. It's baseball, and maybe it's a good thing, right? Maybe we look back and they're in Omaha in a couple weeks, you're like, man, they kind of not flipped the switch, but they just started playing better in all 3 phases of the game after Auburn. And I even said on the podcast, those guys fly charter planes everywhere, but it'd be cool for them to have a bus ride, right? You got 5 hours back, you get a chance to hang out with your buddies and be like, man, that was just gross. That was ugly. What do we need to do to turn it around? We got a couple weeks left, and let's just kind of get it together and go on a big run right here. But I'm not worried about them.
You played on some really good teams that I'm imagining in that era of SEC baseball played against some bad SEC teams. Mississippi State's not good. What's the mindset of this LSU team entering the weekend against a team that is really struggling, coming off an ugly sweep?
Yeah, I think the mindset changes a little bit after the Auburn series loss, right? You want to get back on track. It is the last SEC home series for your seniors. And they're bad, right? But sometimes bad teams are desperate. They're just trying to make the SEC tournament, which makes them a little scary. Their pitching isn't good. They got some guys that can swing it, though, and that can hurt you if you mess around and you get into a slugfest. They're more than happy to swing the bats with you. So I just think at this point in the year, top 5 team in the country, number 1 or number 2, obviously, you just can't take anybody lightly. You're still going to get everybody's best shot. And people are trying to get into the SEC tournament. Georgia's trying to solidify their regional spot next week, and they're very good at home. So you just can't relax in the SEC because at any point in time, anybody can bite you. And you've seen that week in and week out.
Is there a nugget you came upon in your preview podcast of Mississippi State you want to share with us?
I don't have all my papers laid out once again, but I feel like I got burned by my Nuggets last weekend. All right, here's Auburn. Here's just a weird, random stat, and I don't know if it holds any weight. You're a smart baseball guy, but Mississippi State is the only team in the SEC that grounds out more than they fly out. I don't know. I don't know if that matters one lick. I just thought that was really
well.
odd.
In terms of the way that people analyze prospects, it does. And I was listening to a draft prospect podcast about this upcoming MLB baseball draft. And the one concern that they had with Cruz, and he said it was very minor and would not pull me off taking it first, is his ground ball rate is very high this year. And generally speaking, high batting average on high ground ball rate is not sustainable. So that would, if Mississippi State's hitting the ball on the ground a ton, you're not driving doubles in the gap, you're not driving the ball out of the ballpark enough, you're hitting into double plays, and a lot of times some ground balls are weak contact, you all of a sudden are not a very productive offense. So now Cruz has got is the best hitter in the country, and he's hitting it on the ground. And Mississippi State's one of the worst teams in the SEC, and they're hitting on the ground. So there's no real correlation there, but it's something that scouts look at in terms of projecting what might produce offensively.
There you go. So I just found it odd that they were the only one, though. That just kind of caught me by surprise, So So I have no idea.
It's a launch angle sport now. You got to get that thing up in the air and drive it out of the ballpark. At least that's what they say. And LSU does a reasonable job of that. Actually, Mississippi State does as well. Hunter Hines definitely does. So
Hunter Hines, top 5 in the country in home runs. Let's not let that guy get hot this weekend at the box.
I would appreciate it if he did not. All right, man. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
He's Chris Demouy, 60 feet 6 inch LSU baseball podcast. Reacts to every series, previews every series, does an awesome job with the podcast. You can also find it on YouTube as well. So appreciate him for joining us each and every Wednesday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. We got to play some Take It or Leave It. We'll come back after this.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come home, in Baton Rouge. Ah, no matter what you put me on through, gotta send my love down to
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
All right, let's say ah.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. We'll recap LSU Northwestern State from the box. Our SEC Spring Recap looking at the champion Bulldogs. And it's a Whiskey Wednesday. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, the results are in on the poll. We started things off about 3 hours ago, and then I stated my case at 1:15 today. You had one game to win. Who are you giving the ball to, Aaron Nola or Paul Skeens? Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. People have spoken. 62% say they're giving it to Tall Paul. Paul Skeens, 38% say they would go with Aaron Nola. I laid out my case. I'm going with Nola. But I'm not going to bat an eye if Paul Skeens is taking it.
Maybe a little recency bias there.
I think there may be some. But, hey, the guy throws 101 miles an hour. He's going to be the second pick in the draft. He's going to be the National Pitcher of the Year. Going to be the SEC Pitcher of the Year. He's going to have all the accolades that Aaron had. And the story's not written yet. If Skeens goes out there and does something crazy in the NCAA tournament, I may feel a little bit differently. They may have found something with the breaking ball last weekend that struck Auburn 15 times, and he may be a different guy. But, again, there's no wrong answer here. I just go with Nola. It was a long track record, and it was special getting deep into games. All right, let's play Take It or Leave It.
All righty. Starting off here, Carlos Correa is off to a slow start after signing a mega deal for the Twins. He heard boos yesterday at Target Field. Correa responded, "I'd boo as well with the amount of money I'm making if I'm playing like that. Take it or leave it."
I'll take Correa's response. Yeah, I'll take that.
I'll take it.
As far as booing your guys, I've just never really gotten it. I feel like when you're at a game, your job is to help your team and be a distraction to the other team or an intimidating factor to the other team. And to make one of your team players feel bad, to me, is counterproductive. But this is the culture we live in, especially with professional sports fans who feel like they're rich and I paid a lot for this ticket, and if they're not playing, well, I'm booing them. And I think it's stupid. I think you should try to support your guys and help them through it and be a comforting support system for the team and an intimidating force for the other team. But people don't feel that way. They like to make their pleasure just known. That's why you look at Twitter. People just love to be quote-unquote mean on Twitter, like you're going to get somebody online. To me, it just couldn't look dumb. Trying to be intimidating or gotcha or own somebody on Twitter, it seems so dumb to me. But so does booing. Just in general, being just unpleasant to people, I don't really get. But that's the world we live in, and so I'm glad Carlos Correa felt the way that he did and felt like it was acceptable and that he needed to pick it up. But it's still stupid to me.
You're just too nice of a guy, Hunt. That's all.
That may be the case.
Yeah. All right, NBC has hired No Laying Up's Chris Solomon to handle U.S. Open streaming coverage on Peacock. Take it or leave it.
I will take it.
I'll take it.
Probably a lot of the audience doesn't know who Chris Solomon is or what No Laying Up is. They started a golf podcast probably 8-10 years ago. Just some buddies, and they started a golf podcast, and it's exploded to become one of the biggest podcasts in the sports arena, and they do such an awesome job. They've got a YouTube channel with incredible content for those of you that are golf fans. Check out No Laying Up. But Chris is bright, and he's informed, and he just does a really good job covering the sport. And I think things are shifting this way. It's not stuffy, buttoned up, television professional all the time. There's room for Pat McAfee on game day, and there's room for a guy who was a nobody 10 years ago that started a golf podcast and a blog to come on there and talk to the common golf fan as a common golf fan. And so you don't have to have won 2 U.S. Opens to get on there and analyze golf, which it's fine for those that have. I like a lot of the golf commentators they have that have been great players. But Chris is really, really entertaining and really, really good, and I'm excited that NBC is moving this direction. It's just on the stream with Peacock and not going to be taking the spot of Dan Hicks or whoever or Azing or whoever they have on NBC. But I think Chris will do an awesome job, and I can't wait to hear him. So looking forward to that.
Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, is coming out of retirement and heading to the NBA as an advisor, not a coach. Take it or leave it.
I read this. I'll take it. Fine. I don't know if he wants to do something. I don't know how much he's going to add. He's working for the association, like for the NBA, not for a specific team, and he's just going to kind of advise in the basketball world, and he certainly knows a lot of people and has been around a long time. And I don't think it's going to hurt the NBA. But again, as we talked about with yesterday, Ricky Jackson getting a degree at 65, Coach K's in his 70s. Like, I'm just going to relax, take it easy. I don't need to go help work for the NBA, but he wants to. More power to him.
And conversely, J.J. Redick, former player for Coach K,
right.
was interviewed for the Raptors head coaching vacancy. J.J. is a head coach. Take it or leave it.
J.J. Redick cried when they lost to LSU?
Really?
I'll take this. First of all, he is awesome on ESPN. He's on the talk shows. He's informed. He brings statistics, opinions. He brings real-life experience. He's fantastic. I think he runs circles around a lot of the guys they've got talking about basketball. So in that sense, it would be a loss for the viewer to have him gone from ESPN. But he obviously knows the game, and that's kind of the route a lot of these coaches come from is former players. And I don't know that he's better than Nick Nurse, who won a title with the Raptors. But I think he's a basketball guy, and if he's interested in it, I think he could be very good at it because he's really good at talking through things on TV, and I think would be really good at communicating and relating to the players since he's just kind of stepped off the court a couple years ago. So it would be a big loss on the television side, I think. But interesting where the Raptors would look that direction with JJ, so we'll kind of keep that posted. But he did cry after LSU beat him in 2006. Garrett Temple, all over that dude. Tigers beat Duke. That was fun. I was playing high school baseball at the time, but still fun. My dad was watching the game on one of those old little TVs that he had, and I was like looking over at him. And he finally put his hands up. I'm playing shortstop out in the field, and he's putting his hands up. I could tell we won, which was very good, but I didn't get to watch it. All right, that's it for a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We opened things up with LSU and Northwestern State from last night. Skeens versus NOLA, 115 had that debate. It was a what-if Wednesday. Devon Pryor commits to LSU basketball. We talked about that in hour number one as well. D1 baseball projections and Baseball America projections for the NCAA tournament in hour two. Foster Moreau head of the Saints in our weekly conversation with Chris Demoo. You can catch it all on demand. Jimmy Ott's Game Time coming to you tonight from 6 to 8. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. It's 1 to 3. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Follow us on Twitter at 104.